Drone usage in cetacean research. How does it work?
How
And
indeed.
what's it good for? And how's it? Okay, so we're going to be talking about how drones are changing cetacean research, massively changing it as well. It's there's so many applications of this. So I want to initially say like the idea behind this topic was actually the Orca Behavior Institute and Center for Wild Research combined efforts to pair uh, visual, acoustic, and drone footage all together to get a picture of whether to see if they can match actions with vocalizations. So this is a good chance to have a discussion. Uh, so what? Okay, let's talk about what can drones be useful for in cetacean research. So I've kind of written this script completely out of order. So what can we use them for? So first of all, probably the most important thing is visual data, because when you're on a boat and you're surveying cetaceans, you see the water surface up to the horizon. That's all you see. You've got a very y-axis view of things, you know?
And every whale is also, creating a blind spot behind it.
Exactly, exactly. That's another thing. But it's like you'll see what they do at the surface, but you will not see what they do below the surface. And quite often they'll do a lot of their interacting and social interactions below the surface, and they'll come up and they'll take a breath, like all together, if it's orcas, and it's like they just look like they're doing normal stuff. When in actual fact, they might be doing stuff under the water that you don't know about. So basically, when you're looking at whales and dolphins from a boat, you have one axis of like viewing space. You have a second when you've got a drone because like your limit as an observer is that you can't see any kind of depth. For a drone, your limit is you only get like a cross section of the ocean. So pairing visual and drone um, observations is the best thing because a drone can see several meters under the water, typically from high up, especially if it's like orcas or something that has striking coloration. And this massively increases like your area of study. So go ahead.
Well, one of the things that just immediately popped to mind too is that, the drone is going to be more mobile than, you are on the boat as well. So, like, we
Yeah, it can
know
move
we
quicker.
yeah, but also, like, we've talked about, like, the restrictions, like, approaching or, on approaching, whales and, if if they decide to turn and swim straight away from you, well, you can't follow them, but a drone certainly could,
So
at least for a certain distance.
the way I understand there are actually restrictions for drones
Mhm.
on like there's like a minimum distance that you have to be flying above the water.
Yeah.
Um, I think research permits actually allow you to fly lower. Um,
Mhm.
but this is actually something I had on the script as well. Is that it disrupts the animals less.
Yeah.
that being said, one of the studies that I saw on this was actually it was a study on drone usage in of itself with regards to orcas. And one of the metrics that they measured is how often an orca turned to look at the drone.
Mhm.
And it was not that high. It was noticeable, but it was not that high.
Mhm.
But even still, it's not really disrupting them because while it's making
Probably
noise above the water, it's not really making noise under the water like a boat would.
well, and I mean, as like I start to think, how much of a difference is there between a drone and a seagull that's flying around up there and screaming, which the orc and that might be now you might consider this disruptive because that could be what the orca is doing is, oh, I see bird, that means there's fish over that way. So that's where my thinking goes on that behavior.
I I would say that one bird doesn't mean that there's fish in the water. Multiple birds does,
Yeah, that's fair.
and you're not really gonna have more than one drone.
But I mean, I figure it's the orcas looking at it is, you know, probably the same, behavior driven by, seeing birds flying like, oh, I'm gonna look over there. Oh, okay, it's just one bird. I'm gonna keep going, or yeah.
Now, what could actually disrupt the animals more is how this is sometimes used. Um, so there are a certain group of scientists that like to be hands off researching. They don't want to be invasive or disruptive towards towards the animals that they're studying. They don't want to influence their behavior, but also they don't want to inconvenience them. And um, like on this topic, I enjoy being firmly on the fence of like sometimes sometimes tagging can be useful. Sometimes tagging is unnecessary though. So
Hmm.
I'm like I don't really have a strong opinion either way.
Hmm.
But for those that do tag, especially with things like cameras, um, drones are perfect for like dropping like a tag that's got like a suction cup or something onto like the animal.
Yeah, and especially a big whale where like that you have a big aiming point.
Yeah, it's much better, much better to drop a tag from a drone than by using a crossbow, which
Hmm.
some scientists use that to get tags.
Yeah, and I know so locally here um Sarasota dolphin. Why am I'm blanking on their full name? But they've been pioneering, along with some other institutions, a new tagging tool um, that they've been testing on the like offshore dolphins here in the Gulf of Mexico. So I think a lot of the scientists that are doing those kind of things are continuing to research and engineer and look for less invasive ways to of doing these things.
Oh, I'm gonna like straight up put you on the spot for next month. Um, we actually have a story about offshore bottlenose dolphins and the split between offshore and inner shore. I might put you up to doing that using this
Alrighty,
tool.
sounds
Um,
good.
I'll send you the links after. Um, so another use is also like to assist like boat crews in like guiding them towards the correct place where the animals are.
Yeah, I mean, reconnaissance, that's
Yeah,
certainly
definitely.
certainly a big use case, and that's also and especially, reconnaissance is also, where you could get away with cheaper drones as well, because
Yeah.
you're not doing anything with it, so it can be smaller. It's, doesn't need to have a high-end camera because if you're just
Although
guiding.
I think if you're a scientist and you've got a drone up, you're gonna definitely want to be doing more than just reconnaissance with it.
Oh, yeah, you're going to want to, but, my point is just if the budget isn't there for something that, that has a better camera or that could do more,
Like
there's.
tourism might be using it for scoping out an area,
Yeah,
like
that's
while
fair.
watching.
Yeah.
So these can also be used in biopsy slash blow sample collection, which is why we mentioned about whale snot earlier. They can collect whale snot. But yeah, biopsy samples are so valuable in terms of like the research of these animals, understanding them. Um, honestly, like a biopsy could be the difference between discovering that a rice whale is a rice whale and not a bride's whale. That a biopsy sample could confirm that.
Mhm.
So this is super important. It also gives you an idea of the health of the individual as well. Um, but also back onto the visual side of things as well. Uh, do you think it would be pretty difficult from a boat when you've got these whales and dolphins that they only surface like they surface for to take a breath. Like, how do you know they've all surfaced? How do you count how many there are? If you can't photo ID them, how can you tell how many there are?
And yeah, an overhead picture would probably
Yeah,
be the best way,
it's
yeah.
really, really useful. And in regards to that, I also mentioned potentially something that might be in the future is actually an aerial photo ID guide that is exclusively like usable by drones. This would be a really good thing for like for the Center for Whale Research to do, for example, to
Mhm,
have aerial photos of whales that they can definitely identify because they're using a drone in combination with their boat-based viewing. If they can get an aerial photo from a drone, they can actually start building an aerial photo ID guide. Um, it doesn't even have to be its own ID guide. You just lump that in with dorsal fins, and I mean, if you're doing eye patches as well, like you've already got eye patches, you've got dorsal fins, saddle patches. Have like a top-down view. It'll make it much more easier for like photo IDing, especially with the saddle patches or orcas. But
mhm. Yeah, and I
in
would imagine that there's some species that it would work better for than and some it probably would, not be possible.
imagine the Irrawaddy dolphin. Imagine building a photo ID catalog from aerial shots of that.
Mhm.
Is it for those that don't know, the Irrawaddy dolphin is asymmetrical in that it has its blowhole slightly to the left of the central line of the body. Um, Now, this is just my theory. My theory is that you might actually even be able to ID them based on the position of the blowhole. Now, I have no basis of proof for that, but it's like a hunch I have. But that's not something I could ever be like explored through like a boat-based observation, not when you
Mhm.
can get like a top-down view with a drone.
Mhm. Yep.
And you also with the drone get an idea of like the physical body condition of these cetaceans as well. Like whether they're looking skinny, whether they're looking like big, which probably means they've got a calf on the way.
Mhm.
Um, Now there are some downsides um, to drone usage, but there's so many upsides. There's a few downsides, but there's so much research coming out lately that's using drones. So the downsides are the cost. Drones can be pretty expensive to get a good one. They are
Yeah.
weather and battery dependent, and they do require an experienced and crucially a qualified pilot. And there's some,
Especially if you're on a especially if you're on a research permit. I'm sure
yeah,
it's even
they do
stricter
need
than
to have
just
a research permit as well.
mm. But my point there was, that even, yeah, being on a research permit, they would probably have stricter, regulations and requirements for the pilots than just an everyday person.
Yeah, because if you've got a research permit, like the drone can get closer, but that also asks for more from the pilot as well.
Mhm.
And
Y
laws regarding drones are getting stricter and stricter as well.
yeah. Um, on the expensive to buy, and I will say that it is getting to the point of being much more affordable and possible, especially, for at least for, like, even for smaller scale operations to be able to operate, because at this point, like, because I actually was recently looking at drones, and like you can get, ones that are pretty good quality, do 4K, like 4K 60 video, for like 500 to $1,000 that, all have good, um, good reviews and everything, and reputations. So
Where
the price is
does
definitely coming down. Like it's becoming a mature technology, but getting into the really high end stuff is still like 3,000, 5,000, $10,000. But that's you're starting to get into, people that are doing the stuff professionally.
where does the expense come from? Is it the camera? Or is it like the range, or what is it?
It's probably a little of all of that because, like, you also have to consider like battery life and payload capacity.
Yeah,
So like
like if you've
like
got further range, you need more battery.
yeah, so like everything is, I think everything is just very much a give and take on, quality and size and everything else, right? Because obviously, as you go more expensive, you're also getting bigger and bigger, because you're bringing more weight, you're bringing more battery, so have to have a higher takeoff weight. Um, so and like I don't think it's as much cameras anymore, at least when you're talking like the 4K. Now, if you're getting into the 8K or even higher resolutions than that, then I think that's when you're talking about those really expensive ones. But 4K 60, that falls in that 500 to 1,000, kind of price point range, and
I guess
that's
I guess with these cameras, you don't really need anything that can zoom. Because I mean, why would you need a zoom when you can just fly it lower?
yeah, and it all depends on what you're doing, obviously, as well. It's like, um, yeah, you have you do bring up a good point, about the zoom, and if you're going, if you're going up into the high enough dollar range, you're probably talking about a lot of digital zoom and available as well.
Yeah,
'Cause, I mean, I think at this point, with YouTube, I think you can still only upload 4K. I don't think you can upload 8K
I
yet.
think it's only 4K. Yeah, I think I remember looking that up recently as well.
hmm And even when you look at like shorts, they still only do shorts in HD.
Shorts are also. Like the aspect ratio. Oh, that's something I'm not so keen on. Is
I mean, it's the
it
same.
makes editing annoying.
Yeah, and it is the same aspect ratio. It's still 16:9. It's just vertical instead of horizontal.
It's vertical, yeah, but that means quite a bit of like difference with editing. Which to
Yeah,
be fair, I get it. I get why that's a thing.
because it's phone centric,
Yeah,
which I think is why it's also still only HD because it keeps down the data usage,
that
on
makes
your
so much
phone.
sense. Yeah,
And plus also like how fast people are going through probably just is probably all performance related. But yeah, I've been trying to do more with short stuff recently when and when I take my camera out to look for birds and stuff. But I've been trying to remember more to shoot vertical so that I don't have to fight with it in the edit.
yeah. So just quickly, what's on the topic of drones? I'm just going to mention uh, very briefly about two studies that the Center for Wildlife Research has done that has been using drones. Um, so they did a study suggesting that age and gender influence social interactions, but not associations. So they're actually able to ID uh, the orcas when they did this study, but the drone the drone was able to tell like who was interacting with who. But the big thing they came out with, and we did cover this on the podcast, was allokelping, which is this is a form of skin grooming behavior that happens within the southern residents exclusively, um, to where the southern residents will actually fashion bull kelp. They will actually fashion this into a tool, and they'll go in pairs, and they'll just like rub it between the two of them. There is no way that this would ever have been seen from a boat. You might have seen it from like a higher vantage point if you're on the shore, um, but this is definitely something that required drone footage to even notice, let alone like do a proper study. And this was Center for War Research's big research that they released this year, and this was using drones. Um, yeah, I'm gonna set a marker